Marilyn Ellie. I've been working to close Indian Point, now to decommission Indian Point, and now to look to say, what are we going to do for clean, green energy? And I have with me today somebody who's really been working on that for a long time. Manajo Green, who is the Environmental Action Director of the Sloop Clearwater, she's very conversant with this complicated topic, which is the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act. Some people call it CLIPA. So, without saying a lot more, I'm just going to say, man, it's not a bill. Yeah, I know it's been called a scoping act, and it's got a lot of pieces to it. Could you explain, please?
Well, it is a plan. It's a draft plan. And right now they're calling it a draft scoping plan because they want to get everybody's ideas into the plan. But it's based on an act. It's based on a law that was passed the end of 2019, and the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. New York's Climate Act is the most aggressive in the country. The key points are that by 2030, we will be generating 70% of our electricity from renewables. So we really are transitioning to a renewable energy economy with storage and efficiency. And I say that all at once because all of those components will be necessary, and 100% by 2040, and very rigorous greenhouse gas emission reductions. So that is the basis for the scoping plan, is the law. And the law also created a Climate Action Council to oversee the transition, to write a plan, and ultimately be responsible for its implementation.
The Climate Action Council has been very busy. You want to talk about that, and then we'll go back to the to CLIPA.
Yes. Over the course of the last year, actually 2 years, the Climate Action Council first formed, and they formed working groups in different topics. And they also formed, or I should say, they formed advisory councils. And then they formed two very important working groups, one on environmental justice and one on just transition. I think most people know what environmental justice is at this point in time, but just transition means looking out for the workers that will be displaced as we go from an energy system that has been centralized based on fossil fuel, to some extent hydro, and to some extent nuclear, but moving to a renewable energy economy. So some of the workers that are currently employed will no longer have jobs, but with just transition, we can ensure that they are prepared, trained, and placed in the new jobs that will be created by the act and by the ultimately plan and regulations that will be put into effect.
So the environmental justice component has a lot to do with the employees of these plants that are going to be closed. What about the rest of the community?
Well, just transition refers to the workers, but environmental justice refers to the entire community. And one of the things that's unique about New York's law is that they actually specify that 35, or if it's achievable, 40% of the benefit of transitioning to a renewable energy economy will accrue to communities of color and low income, what they call disadvantaged communities, and what I like to call priority communities. So that is another really unique feature about New York's Climate Act.
There are no other states that are giving that kind of emphasis to their future?
Not that I know of. California is doing a lot of great things with regard to climate solutions, but I don't know that they have as much emphasis on environmental justice as is built into New York's law.
And you see that being highly significant, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It starts to make up for all of the disadvantages that sectors of our society have suffered over the years, and at least acknowledges that in order to have equity in society, we have to pay attention and set standards that address that inequality and bring us more toward a state of fairness and equity.
Well, the council has been meeting. They've had meetings all over, some real and some virtual. Did you participate in any of them?
I did. I participated in the one in Albany live, and I also participated in the virtual. And I'm in the process of writing comments both for Clearwater and coordinating comments for the 7 counties in the Mid-Hudson region have an energy working group. And so what we did was we took people who have expertise in green building or in transportation, water, all of the different issues that will be affected by this law. And we had them write sections so that the document will be comprehensive. And I think that the CAC will pay attention to a document that represents input from the 7 counties in the Mid-Hudson region. So, and that was the best way to address it, was to go to the people that really had expertise. The comments are due July 1st. For people who thought they were due June 10th, there is a couple-week extension. And I've heard that there are like 16,000 comments submitted already. They expect it to be double that. When all the comments are in, the Climate Action Council and their various advisory groups and working groups will process that information. And by the end of this year, the Climate Action Council is charged with creating a final report. So this is a draft scoping plan, and that will be a climate plan to achieve all the goals that I mentioned earlier that are embodied in the Climate Act in the law.
Who will they submit the draft plan to?
Well, they will publish it, and that will require that all of the agencies, the Public Service Commission, DEC, NYSERDA, the New York ISO, New York Power Authority, the utilities, et cetera, all, well, the regulatory agencies promulgate rules to implement the plan, and the utilities and the rest of us, municipalities, et cetera, all do our share to achieve these ambitious goals of, I love 70% renewable energy by 2030. I want to make one other really quick point. There are a whole lot of key points, and I can send you a link with some of them on the Clearwater website and the details of how to file.
What's going to happen? I'm hoping this is not just going to go sit on a shelf.
Oh, absolutely not. No. Um, the big question that remains is how to pay for this all. And there are various different funding systems. But basically, a very central part is switching to what they call beneficial electrification.
I'm
That
sorry, say that again.
beneficial electrification,
Huh.
which means that in the future, instead of burning fossil fuel for heating buildings, that the buildings will be super insulated and good air quality will be maintained, healthy air quality will be maintained, and they will run on electricity, ideally ground or air source heat pumps for heating and cooling. And our vehicles will transition away from burning fossil fuel to running on electricity. And that is very central, but we want to be sure that the renewable energy infrastructure is put into place so that we really can make that transition. And that needs to be done wisely. So if we're putting solar in, we don't pave over prime farmland or cut down forests, which are so important for drawing down and sequestering greenhouse gases.
Well, we've covered quite a bit of territory here, but I really just want to recap the steps for the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act. We're not there yet. Information, the process for gathering information is coming to a close. There will be a draft that will be submitted to all of the agencies. You stop me if I don't get this right. After that, it comes out to the public. I'm thinking that there'll probably be some more public hearings for the draft.
Well, this is the draft scoping plan. There will be a final plan by the end of the year.
It's important for people to get in the last chance for the comments to make, particularly on green buildings, as you mentioned. And they can send them in. We'll have all the information at the screen to make it easy for people to do that. And I guess I would just ask you if you have a final point or a final word about that.
I am just very proud of New York, but now we have to roll up our sleeves and get the job done. We've been talking about transitioning to a renewable energy economy since Jimmy Carter put solar panels up
On
on
the
the
White
White House and
House.
Ronald Reagan came and took them down.
Right.
But the climate crisis has exacerbated really seriously. Both poles are melting. And if we can't stop that, then the methane that's trapped in the permafrost will get released. And I don't even want to go there, but
Yeah.
that's true disaster. We're seeing signs of it around the world, and we can't just keep talking. No more talk. We've got to roll up our sleeves and get that infrastructure in place, reduce our emissions, and consider some of the advanced technologies that can help implement real climate solutions. I don't want it to be that my grandson grows up and says, why don't you do something about this? Up our sleeves and do something about it, not just talk, not just plan, not just scope, but actually put the infrastructure in place. And if you know people who are resistant because they don't want to look at solar power or they have some reason, it's because in some sense they're denying the seriousness of the problem, and talk it through. But when you talk it through, listen to what they have to say, because the more you listen, the more you open the opportunity for them to listen back. So those are my final thoughts.
Well, thank you very much. That's what you've told us is laid out very nicely, and it really is a call to action because we all have to work on this whole thing of climate change. I appreciate your time and your expertise. So thank you very much, Manajo. This is Manajo Green, Environmental Action Director of the Hudson Valley Sloop Clearwater.
Thank you, Marilyn, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Let's get the job done.